We want to show you now a kind of a composite of what we've been able to accumulate so far of the videotape of the damage in the San Francisco area by and large, and some of the outlying areas too. And then we're going to be talking with the Governor of California, George Deukmejian. This is the San Francisco Bay Bridge. That is the collapse span that we saw just moments ago. The Federal Emergency Management Assistance will be out there with some support beams that they bring in from the military, and they're saying that they can get that bridge repaired in a couple of days. And that, of course, will be a major boon to the community. The fire that you're seeing here that started earlier tonight, this is earlier videotape, apparently from a broken gas main in the northern part of the city in a residential area very near the San Francisco Marina and the waterfront area known as Fisherman's Wharf. We don't know how many people were hurt or killed in that area, but the death toll and the injury toll could go fairly high because that's a very popular area. At least one person trapped in the rubble there. That's near the approach to the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. A brick building came down, we're told, and collapsed on cars. Nighttime scenes now of the same fire. And standing by on the telephone in Frankfurt, West Germany tonight, where he's being flown back by the U.S. government, is the Governor of California, George Deukmejian. George, I can't pretend I don't know you. What are you hearing from your office in Sacramento?
Well, Tom, I'm here in Frankfurt because we opened a new California Trade and Investment Office yesterday, and about 1 a.m. our time in Frankfurt, I received a call about the earthquake, and then I've been following it on CNN and also receiving reports throughout the entire night. So I'm getting ready to return. The first flight that I can get out of Frankfurt to get back will leave Frankfurt around 10 a.m.
Now, almost 6 hours ago, it occurred at 5:04 Pacific time. And that meant that it was 9 o'clock here, was actually coming up on 4 hours ago. And these are nighttime scenes now from KRON. This could be 101 going south. It could be any one. We're told now that it's Highway 280 leading out of the city of San Francisco. That's the principal throughway down south of San Francisco. It would take you down to San Mateo and San Bruno and South San Francisco to the airport. And Evan White described these roads earlier appropriately as a parking lot. People probably getting in their cars and moving out of the city because they don't want to be around in case something else happens, and aftershocks go on. And they can be pretty unsettling as well. Once you get through the first earthquake, which in this case we're told was clocked at 15 seconds, then there have been a series of pretty severe aftershocks after that going on about every 20 minutes or so. And they too can cause damage because what happens is that the first big shaker weakens a structure, a bridge, a building, a highway overpass of some kind considerably. The next aftershock comes along. It may not be quite as strong, but it's enough to bring it down. And also, I'll tell you that it's psychically unsettling to go through all that. It's just not something that you want to deal with because it's psychologically not a very pleasant experience to go through earthquakes. So that's where we stand at this hour in San Francisco. They are continuing to fight a fire. It appears that the worst damage was done just across the bay. In an approach to the Oakland Bay Bridge. The casualty figure is now running at 69 people dead. That has not been confirmed. It could go higher. It may be slightly lower. It does appear that at least 50 to 60 people were killed when a portion of the interstate highway approach to the Oakland Bay Bridge came down tonight. The peak of the rush hour, 5:04 Pacific time, which, as I indicated to you just a few moments ago, makes that here in New York, it's coming up on 10 to 1, and at that time it was shortly after 9 o'clock, so it was about 4 hours ago. KRON, our affiliate in San Francisco, has been on the air all night long as best they can be under the circumstances. They have videotape still coming in. Let's see if we can catch up with some of it.
Stay away, except for inspectors, dispatchers, and emergency crews, of course. That's in the Redwood City Hall of Justice.
So we can tally up the fatalities in a crude fashion because we're still getting information. We have known for a while that there were 5 that were killed south of Market, also 3 people in that Marina District fire, and 53 people in the Cypress section of east of the Bay Bridge.
We have no numbers to add, but we're told that in Santa Cruz there's a major collapse on the top of the Pacific Golden Mall, and they think there are fatalities. They do not know. They have not been confirmed, but that's in Santa Cruz, very close to the epicenter.
Also, as far as transportation, Southern Pacific trains are now running from South San Francisco to San Jose, but in San Francisco, the 4th and Townsend station is still closed. So transportation getting up to speed gradually.
Did we have the BART? We have not had BART return to service
No,
yet,
no,
right?
we
When they do, they'll operate all night, but otherwise they're not running as yet either.
Okay, in downtown Santa Cruz, at least 6 people have been killed in the Pacific Garden Mall when the building collapsed. So 6 more to add to the list of fatalities. This is downtown Santa Cruz because of the collapse of a mall. It is hard to read some of this writing. I apologize. They said the quake took 3 minutes to get from the epicenter to San Francisco. I guess
From Santa Cruz here, it's a 3-minute delay, so it rumbled all the way up. KCBS is reporting, in fact, 200 people died in the Bay Bridge Cypress section. That's not the Bay Bridge collapse, but the section of the freeway east of the Bay Bridge leading onto Highway 17. KCBS now puts the death toll there at 200 and about a dozen deaths in San Francisco as that toll adds. So far more people apparently died, and the worst, of course, is that Cypress section in Oakland. Wilson Van Alt is back with us. Wilson?
Well, we've seen a lot of those pictures of bodies being taken out with shrouds over them, people who have died in this, but we have some other pictures, some pictures of heroic rescues that took place in all of this. This happened in the marina late this evening. It was about 2.5 hours after the earthquake itself had struck, and this was in an apartment building that had collapsed at the northeast corner of Broderick and Beach, at Divisadero and Beach Streets in the marina. This was a 3-story apartment building. They had taken about 4 people out of there earlier, and then they went back inside and found a woman who had been pinned by a door. She was in an area where there in fact was a gas leak, and they could not take in power tools to try to effect a rescue on her. They were afraid that the power tools, the so-called jaws of life, might set off a spark and indeed create an explosion there. So they went in and by hand removed the door on her, and you are seeing this woman as she is being brought out. She is an elderly woman. We do not have an identity on her yet or know her exact age, but she was brought out very much alive, very much in savable condition. In fact, she was joking with her rescuers as she was being brought out, saying, well, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do because I don't have medical insurance. So we have at least that much of a good story to tell about the heroics that were going on tonight, as well as the disasters that we've seen.
Especially when the last word we have, that situation is contained down there. Now it's a matter of trying to seal off the area, make sure there's no other problems, but still a lot of gas leaks going on?
Our understanding is there have been gas leaks. There were, of course, in trying to fight the fires that were going on down there, there was word that the water mains had been broken, and along with those water mains, gas mains were broken. So there were collected pockets of gas in the building where this woman was taken out from, and in other places, and there were inspectors going through trying to find out where those pockets of gas were before they would let people back into the apartment buildings they occupied. As of about half an hour ago, most of the people were being allowed back inside their homes, although power was still out, and if they went back inside, they were using candles, if anything, for light.
We can assume power outages will go on for some time. It's coming back in fits and starts around many Bay Area communities, but of course a lot of them are still incredibly dark, and that'll go on for a while.
Still a very dramatic situation going on at the Cypress, that's east of the Bay Bridge. Again, we're now told that 200 people or more have been killed. Alameda County says at least 40 people have been rescued. This is a rescue effort that's expected to go on all night. No one knows at this point how many more cars are still trapped, but they say there are still many. So that rescue effort going on at this hour. Many dead, though,
and
200.
Still interrupted phone service throughout the Bay Area. As we've said before, patience is going to have to be what you rely on, and cool head, because it's going to be a long time before you're going to know the whereabouts and the status of your loved ones. People getting home and making contact in any way is so difficult. The transportation system just beginning to groan back into some semblance, but still most of it is out. And traveling is hard.
Yeah, it's rather spotty, as Mark Jones says. Highway 280 near 101 at that point is closed because there's some structural damage. There are some vehicles, some official vehicles that are being used to block the highway so that people won't drive into that structural damage. And of course, the lights are out, so it's even more of a hazard. So that's an additional reason that the vehicles are there to keep people from stumbling onto some of those dangerous spots.
Most hospitals, remarkably, are operating even if they're operating under incredible handicaps, as Highlands has the triage set up in the parking lot because of power problems. Mount Zion in San Francisco not operating, but the rest of them are as best they can. We have some videotape, in fact, from the Letterman Army Hospital at San Francisco's Presidio. They called all their staff in, as all hospitals officials have done. They've got 5 of the victims from the Bay Bridge. One, unfortunately, was dead on arrival. Many are being airlifted by helicopter from the Alameda Naval Air Station, then to Crissy Field, and from Crissy Field, they're put in ambulances and taken to Letterman General Hospital. In fact, San Francisco General says they've only received a few people, and they may think it's because of the heavy traffic, simply forces people to go elsewhere. One makes decisions on what you do with the injured based on how soon you can get some help to them, and that's the problem. You can't get any place very easily tonight in the city or outside the city.
All right, we are watching and monitoring station KRON in San Francisco. Emerald Yee and Evan White talking to us now about what's going on. They're bringing us up to date. Emerald mentioned some death toll numbers that are unusually high. They are unconfirmed when she said that maybe 200 people have been killed on the Cypress Bridge approach to the Oakland Bay Bridge. We must tell you that we have not been able to affirm that in any fashion. The highest number that we've had from the California Highway Patrol and other officials has been 60 to 70. It could go as high as 200, but no one knows that for sure at this hour. There's a good deal of confusion out there. Phone lines are down, so is power. It was the height of the rush hour at 5:04 Pacific time when the earthquake struck, and the top span of that highway went down onto the bottom span, and there were probably a lot of cars and trucks on it at the time. It is Route 880 that we are concerned about. The approach to the Oakland Bay Bridge, spans on the bridge are down. Fisherman's Wharf, you can see at the top there, is just to the left of there where the most severe damage in the city seems to have occurred, although we're told downtown in Union Square, Magnin windows came out, people were hurt there. Nothing about hotels so far. The old and very elegant San Francisco City Hall has taken some internal structural damage, but the mayor of San Francisco, Art Agnos, saying that he believes that they're doing pretty well at this hour. So that's where we stand right now. This is NBC News, and we are continuing our coverage of the San Francisco earthquake. Dr. David Hammonds of Kaiser Santa Clara Hospital is on the phone to us right now. Dr. Hammonds, are you getting some earthquake victims at your hospital?
Yes, sir, we are.
Can you tell us the nature of the injuries?
At this time, we've had about 100 patients who have been treated and released for minor injuries, mostly from falls or falling debris. We've had a couple of patients admitted to the hospital, and one patient who passed away after having a heart attack due to the earthquake.
And what about any requests that you've had from the San Francisco hospitals, Letterman, for example, and that's the hospital, not the entertainer, and the other San Francisco General Hospital, those hospitals, are they asking you for assistance?
Well, at this point, we haven't had any requests for that. All of our medical staff is here tonight and trying to treat the patients, but we haven't had any requests even from other hospitals in our area in the South Bay for further help, and we're prepared to handle a number of patients, and we haven't seen too many critical injuries at this point.
Let's go back now to KRON.
Because that traffic jam had kept them from getting some of the patients that they thought they might get. We'll wait and see.
We also have some good news southbound out of San Francisco to the peninsula. Caltrans says their tracks are okay. They've done the check. Trains are about to begin operating out of San Francisco southbound from San Francisco to San Jose. So the crush of people stuck trying to get home southbound without transportation will have Southern Pacific and Caltrans pretty soon to do that. All right, Helicopter 4 apparently is live for us. We're going to go.
No.
Do we know what it is?
Is that over the Bay Bridge? Cypress. That's
All
over
right, that
Cypress.
is the Cypress accident where they are working with generated power and all the emergency people they can. That's a live picture from Helicopter 4 looking down on the Cypress overpass just east of the Oakland Bay Bridge where it meets land and peels off in the 3 directions. The Cypress freeway is that begins 17 southbound, just beyond eastbound from the toll plaza, where it collapsed onto the freeway deck below it, trapping people in their cars during the height of commute. And this is where we're now hearing at least 200 people are believed to have died, untold number of injuries, and because it is cement that has fallen to the freeway deck below it, it'll be some time before we know the extent of the death, the damage, and the fatalities coming out of there. Transportation. Bart, operating in the East Bay, not under the bay. train southbound from San Francisco about to get underway, and while there are thousands of people, as you said, at the dock, the ferries are getting them home.
Also, Highway 580 from Oakland down into Castro Valley is clear, so traffic is moving there. And now some employees are being told to report to work, and that includes all Lockheed employees. They're being asked to show up at work tomorrow.
Again, flying over the Cypress interchange in Oakland, they're a little lower to the ground to see the operation, an incredible intensive rescue operation going on there. They brought in rescue teams from all over, including, I believe, the military, trying to get the cement lifted off and trying to get the people who may still be trapped underneath. This is an operation, obviously, that will go on through tonight. The darkened spot runs from top to bottom of your screen is that part of the freeway that collapsed onto itself. And down below, the upper deck is southbound. When you come off the Bay Bridge on Highway 17 heading south, you'd be in the upper deck. If you were coming northbound to the bridge or up 80, you would then be on the bottom deck. And of course, 5:04 is the heaviest commute time. I can give you a traffic update while we look at Helicopter 4. The Presidio entrances to the Golden Gate Bridge still closed, other access routes. This is the daylight before the sun went down tonight of what you were just seeing live from Helicopter 4. This is what you couldn't see in the dark. This is what happened to the overpass, the upper freeway deck of the Cypress interchange. It broke off in sections, falling to the lower deck below it, full of cars at the time. This is earlier shots. These are taken again from Helicopter 4. 200 at least believed dead, and scores more obviously injured. The pictures pretty much speak for themselves. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, somehow they expect the Bay Bridge to be repaired sufficiently in a couple of days to get traffic 3 lanes at least, they say, in both directions open. But 3 days is a long way from now. This is back to a live picture from Helicopter 4. You can't see anything but very little lights.
Tell me when you're ready. Tell me when you're ready to patch.
We're going to try to get a live report from you from Rita. In Helicopter 4? Rita Cohen? Okay, she's in the chopper for us, as she is. We're going to get, she can certainly see a lot better with her own eyes what we can see, looking at their shot from TC4.
Stay on the shot, Glenn. Keep them high. We're still recording audio. Keep stretching. You ready? Tell them to hold the shot, Glenn.
As you can see, you talk about power outages. Very little electricity is still being restored to Oakland, as in most areas hit by it. The cars, by the way, who were left on the Bay Bridge are being towed to impound lots, and folks, when all settles down, should get in touch with the CHP, and they can let them know where their cars are being kept. Because obviously it's going to be a while before it is all undone. All the cars have to be towed off the bridge and impounded someplace. And they'll know where they are, hopefully, but it might take a few days, so do be careful. Let's go to Rita Cohen. She is live for us in Helicopter 4. Rita?
You now, Evan. There we go. It's a live picture we're showing you right now on top of the Cypress section of the Nimitz Freeway. The large floodlights overlooking the view where most of the damage has been done on this section of freeway, and quite a few crews still down there working. Obviously, as you can see, traffic is not getting through Oakland on this Cypress section. It is being diverted onto Highway 580 through downtown, and surprisingly, it is flowing smoothly. Now, to get out of San Francisco, some people have reported that they have gone down Park Presidio and across the Golden Gate Bridge, where traffic is flowing at the moment, both northbound and southbound. Highway 101 through Marin County is still open and moving, and the San Rafael Bridge is still open, and traffic flowing across that span for those who must get to the East Bay. As I was driving down the East Shore Freeway a couple hours after the earthquake happened, Evan, coming westbound on Highway 80 along the waterfront from University Avenue in Berkeley and past Ashby, you could just see the ripples and the crevices in the road surface there. One car obviously down to its hubcaps on the wheels that had fallen into one of the crevices. Lots of damage at that location. They're also talking about similar damage at the Bay Bridge. Lurch cracks in the mud at the Bay Bridge toll plaza, which of course will have to be repaired before they can reopen that structure. Now the Army Corps of Engineers is talking about a plan to put a temporary structure at the Bay Bridge. They say the technology is there. They have used it in other situations. Whether or not they can do it in 3 days, though, remains to be seen, but they will attempt it to try to get traffic flowing again on the Bay Bridge within 3 days, or at least within a week. Bart, we have heard from the BART general manager that they were surveying the BART tube and trying to check that out, trying to get service back as soon as possible. It is not up at this point, but they do have, as you have been talking about, I know we're repeating ourselves a little bit here, but some people may not have heard about the red and white ferry service that is offering free shuttle from the Embarcadero to the East Bay. That is another way for getting people who are in San Francisco to their homes in the East Bay. Evan, back to you.
This is an update on the marina fire and collapsed buildings we talked to you about earlier. The latest figure is in all 12 buildings involved in the marina either burned or collapsed. 12 there tonight. We're trying to get a link now on the ground at the Cypress interchange in Oakland. Reporter Anthony Moore is over there with the remote crew for us, and as soon as we get their picture up, we should be able to get you an update assessment of just what the situation is at that collapsed freeway in Oakland. Is he ready? Okay, let's go to Anthony Moore in Oakland on the ground at the Cypress interchange.
Let's go to this.
Cypress, Evan, I am at Cypress and 24th Street. Behind me, you can see the devastation that this earthquake has caused. The top section of the freeway there has literally dropped onto the middle section, and the middle section is only precariously holding itself up. With photographer John Weaver, we're going to walk a little closer here, and you're going to see just how bad this is. This is a pylon that held up the upper section and kept it up before the earthquake happened. You can see rebar here that's at least 2 inches in diameter that has been completely sheared off of the top section. So this pylon here, standing on the floor, let me get closer to it so you can see just how big it is. This pylon here was holding up the upper section. And we are told that for a half mile to a mile and a half from about 18th Street, which is off that way, to 24th Street where I am, and then all the way up to 32nd Street, that top section collapsed. It was during the rush hour, and normally, according to police officers from the Oakland Police, this would have been bumper-to-bumper traffic. It has not been confirmed that it's bumper-to-bumper, but for sure there were quite a few cars under there. We've had a chance to talk with a number of the rescuers who were here at this section not too long ago, and they were able to find one man alive in between these two sections. Apparently a young man who actually had been trapped in his car since the beginning of this earthquake, obviously, when the top section went down. If we can roll the tape of that from the truck, we're going to try and roll some tape to show you the actual rescue, which took place not too long ago. About 8:45 or 9 o'clock is when they were actually able to bring the man out. So he was underneath for several hours.
Happened to us tonight. We're operating in precarious situation as well. That was Anthony Moore. He is at the site of the Cypress collapse of that freeway, as you could see, and it was incredibly powerful, obviously.
And to try to put the severity of this earthquake into some perspective, I was handed some information that seems to indicate that this is the third strongest earthquake in California history. The first one, of course, being the one in the San Francisco area in 1906, and there was also one, that one measured 8.3, and in Kern County, there was one that measured 7.7 in Kern County. That was July of 1952. I believe the one that took place in Morgan Hill in 1984.
Emerald Yee and Evan White, and we just saw from one of their reporters, Anthony Moore, the close-up footage of that collapsed section of Interstate Highway 88 in the Oakland Bay area, the so-called Cypress approach to the Bay Bridge, where they are now saying that there may be as many as 200 people who were killed when those two sections of the freeway collapsed tonight at the height of rush hour. And that, of course, is a very popular route off the Bay Bridge going south towards San Jose, what is called the East Bay section of the San Francisco area. It's a popular bedroom for many commuters coming into the city of San Francisco, and that's where they work. We go now to Bob Jamieson, our NBC News correspondent, who was at Candlestick Park earlier tonight when the earthquake hit. He's managed to find his way back into the city, and he's at the NBC News Bureau right now. Is it a darkened city as you look out the window?
Yes, Tom, there are still power problems. There is some emergency power on in some buildings in downtown San Francisco, but power has not been restored. The streets, which had a great deal of traffic earlier this evening, are now pretty quiet. The only large crowd that we noticed some time ago was a group that gathered to wait for a ferry to go back to the East Bay. Mayor Art Agnos of San Francisco said a short time ago that the water and sewage systems seem to be operating fine. They are putting the number of injuries in San Francisco proper at about 100, the number of deaths in San Francisco proper at about 8. 5 from a building collapse in the South Market area, and 3 who were killed in that fire near Fisherman's Wharf. In San Jose, we are told there have been no fatalities reported, but 100 injuries, some of them minor, some of them serious. A building collapse in Santa Cruz with some fatalities, but the big question, which we cannot answer, or the number that we cannot confirm, is the number of those who died on the Cypress Bridge.
Yeah, we'll just bring you up to date, and that was a very good roundup, Bob, but and around the city, people will want to know, well, what about the Golden Gate Bridge? No damage. In fact, it was the only one open after the earthquake, we are told tonight. And they are saying that 200 people died when the Cypress Bridge collapsed. That is the approach to the Oakland Bay Bridge, but that has not been confirmed. And I think that even from this distance, it's fair to say that it'll be some time before they can confirm it, because the collapse was so complete, they won't know until they begin to lift those spans. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree, because of the double-decker nature of this. It's very dark, obviously. There has been some confusion, and it will be some time before that's resolved. We have heard all evening long that the number of injuries there was in the several hundreds. I might add that the highways south of San Francisco now are apparently open and quite busy.
Yeah, I would think so. A lot of people probably who live in San Francisco may be heading south for more reasons than just to go visit. But on the other hand, that, of course, south of San Francisco is a popular bedroom for commuters who come up from Palo Alto and from Sunnyvale and other areas. And then there is Silicon Valley, which also is a place for some people near the San Francisco area go to work. We're going to go back to KRON now. The people who have been flying by the seat of their pants in an admirable fashion all night long, bringing us up to date on what is going on in their city, in their area. And we've been hearing most of the night from Emerald Yee and from Evan White, 2 of their crack anchor people and reporters. So let's go back there and hear what they have to say now.
In Los Altos to Highway 85, a stretch of about 5 to 10 miles because of major buckling and damage to overpasses. Well, now the Office of Emergency Services says that as many as 250 people are dead from the Cypress overpass collapse.
We have some more video of that, I'm told, the daytime video of the Cypress overpass just east of the Oakland Bay Bridge. All right, we don't have the video right now.
All right, so the death toll continues to climb. They are still trying to rescue people. It's an effort that they expect to go on all night. They're desperately trying to get people out of there. They say there are many people that they believe are still trapped there.
The rules to remember tonight: don't flush your toilet, at least in San Francisco and anywhere else where there's severe damage. The sewer system in San Francisco simply can't handle it. It is also a toilet that is not being used as a source of water if you have water main breaks. We're finding a lot more water and gas line breaks than first thought. That's the kind of thing that starts evolving, too, as the night wears on. When you start assessing neighborhoods that may appear to be unscathed by a quake, you'll find out more than power lines and telephone lines are down, but there's damage to either sewer, gas, or water lines, too. So you can pretty well have to make your own assessment as to how serious the situation is in your environment. Use common sense, smell for leaks, check around, and check frequently as the night goes by, just to make sure everything still is as it was the last time you went out and checked. Now we're going to roll the Cypress. All right, this is certainly the most...
We cannot hear Evan White, but he was talking about this is the Cypress Bridge approach to the Oakland Bay Bridge. There was some confusion earlier about just where this was located, but as you can see, section after section collapsed. And it was about a mile long, and they're now saying that the death toll here could be more than 200. It's easy to see how that could happen. What you're seeing just to the right of your screen is how the bridge would be normally configured, and then when it dropped flat onto the bottom surface. There were cars and trucks there. nighttime rubble, the evacuation that is going on there, at least one person has been rescued. But you never know in these circumstances. That's a very complete collapse of girders and highway. And it's also hard to lift those up. They'll have the jaw. Look at that. The powerful forces of nature that have visited us now in the last 2 months. Hurricane Hugo sweeping ashore in the southeast. Now this earthquake, 6.9. For all of our fancy construction, all of our dreams, all of our fast and powerful cars and high-rise buildings, we cannot hold back something like an earthquake of this magnitude. Although most of the high-rises in downtown San Francisco did withstand it very well because they are constructed to do just that. A long and painful and difficult night in the as we are looking at live pictures coming from the San Francisco Bay Area tonight, courtesy of KRON, from an area just across the bay in the approach to the San Francisco Bay Bridge on the Oakland side. It's called the Cypress Bridge approach. It is Interstate 880, and that was at the peak of the rush hour when all of this occurred, we think. Well, it would be hard to survive a lot of that, I'll tell you. We're going to take you back now to KRON TV, to Emerald Yee and to Evan White, who have been covering this story throughout the evening. And I'll be giving way here to NBC's Chuck Scarborough. We'll have continuing coverage as long as the story warrants it throughout the evening on NBC, and then a special edition continuing tomorrow morning on NBC's Today Show. We'll begin first with NBC News at sunrise, and then an extended edition of the Today program, going live across the country, bringing you up to date on the extent of the damage and the repair. So here now, Evan White and Emerald Yee.
Here's some Marin information about transportation commute for the morning. Golden Gate Transit says they are going to run ferries from Larkspur from 5:30 in the morning. There are going to be 3 boats, and they're simply going to run them continuously all through the day. Sausalito's going to run its ferry from 7:15 in the morning. Perhaps earlier, they're not sure. Buses will run over the Golden Gate Bridge on a normal schedule. If traffic gets too heavy, they're saying that they're going to divert the buses and the traffic on those buses to the Larkspur Ferry. The red and white fleet will run service. They're running it now from the ferry building to Jack London Square. They have not told us how long they're going to be doing that.
Right now, we'd like to show you some damage from Los Gatos. We don't have things askew, glass cracked. But basically in the peninsula area towards San Jose, there have been no reports of major injuries.
Unfortunately, I've been handed to the worst part of all this, and that is an update on fatalities. The estimate from the Cypress section of the Oakland freeway is 250. That is still an estimate, by the way, not a confirmed number. From the San Francisco Marina fire, the number of dead is 8. From the 6th and Townsend collapse in the San Francisco South of Market is 5. And in Santa Cruz, the collapse at the mall, now they say 6 people died there, which is more than we knew about before.
So at least in the Marina area, the last we had heard was 3 dead, and now there's 8. So the death toll is climbing.
Unfortunately, death tolls, well, the worst part, the injured toll is not even possible to calculate at this hour, because there are still people trapped. They're still hunting for more.
You can go north on 80 to Berkeley, or you can go south on Highway 880. It was formerly 17 into Oakland. It's that section there, a mile to a mile and a half, which has collapsed. We'd like to show you what is now edited tape. We have that capacity here at Sutro to edit tape. You haven't seen this footage before. It's going to start just as the earthquake hits.
This was the first major jolt that the Bay Area got at about 5:04 this afternoon.
So the camera's shooting in Oakland, and very shortly, again, the unreinforced masonry is taking the brunt of the damage. Water mains all over both Oakland and San Francisco have ruptured. And as Evan and Emerald have been telling you, here is the 880 overpass. Okay, you're looking at the lower structure of this double-decker roadway that has completely given way. If you look at it from the top, you can see that it's buckled to and fro. Again, we have an estimated 250 dead here. Originally, there were 400 injured. A lot of people like this gentleman did what they could to try to help others. You'll see this man try to climb over. He was apparently in a car on the upper deck. He tries to climb over to see what's going on beneath because he knows that his deck fell. And certainly the deck below is taking the brunt of it. Now you see how the two decks have come together here. The cars are completely smashed in there.
And what this man is doing, like many did, is to look underneath this structure to see if any people were trapped. And we have unofficial reports that some people were pulled from beneath this tonnage of concrete and steel.
Here's a case in point. Again, upper deck of the bridge, and they were able to get a stretcher up here. They're going to have to take this man down on a fire ladder to get him down to the ground. We're about 50 feet above ground at this point.
They were extending these ladders all the way up, as far as they would go, to get some of these people down.
You see the top of the ladder there. He was one of the lucky ones, of course, being on the upper deck. Below, we can tell you right now, we have firm word that many rescue operations are still going on at this scene in Oakland.
The problem was this, that at the time of the earthquake, which we have repeated many times tonight, 5:04, there were certain sections of this freeway that had a backup, that had cars literally bumper to bumper at the time. Other sections, they were moving. Now, it was that section of the freeway, that mile-and-a-half stretch that Suzanne had mentioned earlier, where this tonnage of concrete and steel literally came down, sandwiching many of these victims between.
All right, we've been watching KRON in San Francisco as they bit by bit, piece by piece, put that story together. I'm Chuck Scarborough, NBC News in New York. Tom Brokaw has departed now. He is on his way to San Francisco to cover the story firsthand. I'm going to be spelling him until we hand it off at 4 o'clock in the morning to John Palmer. We're going to be covering straight through into tomorrow with this story, this major story, an incredible tragedy unfolding in San Francisco right now in the Bay Area. As you saw, the focal point of most of the damage right now, as far as we can assess, is that area on the Oakland Bay Bridge. On the eastern side, the approach, where the concrete is pancaked down, the upper level pancaking down on the lower level, crushing many cars down there. The death toll is estimated now by some accounts to be up as high as 250 people, a major tragedy in that one spot alone.